have a mixture ratio that I'm sure is quite special. We also have a detox system for removing heavy metals from the body. Now, why heavy metals? In the 1960s, we happen to have Dr. Podlosky with us tonight, who, by the way, is an author of a book that we have up here, and I have used this extensively in my research to help me understand some of the issues that we have with heavy metals in the human body, because he has done some fantastic research and putting together some information that I think you'll find is extremely helpful to you in understanding heavy metal risks that we have today. In the 1970s, very few people had a lot of heavy metal toxicity. But as time passed, now what do you think you would find if you took every person in this room and measured their aluminum levels, their arsenic level, their cadmium levels, their lead levels, their mercury levels, with all the fish we eat and with all of the fossil fuels that are burned in the atmosphere, the coal, and all of the byproducts of that process that you're inhaling in the air that come through the jet stream. How does it get down to Florida? Well, it comes through the jet stream. It comes through the air that you breathe, the food that you eat, the things that you have shipped all over the country. So you're exposed to heavy metals. And why the big deal? Well, heavy metals cause autism, they cause attention deficit disorder, hyperactivity disorder, they cause dementia, they cause cardiac diseases, they cause kidney disease, they cause liver disease, and they cause death. Heavy metals are toxic. We don't need them in our bodies. We need to get them out. Do we have a safe method of doing that? IV chelation done in the communities and throughout the world have been studied by the National Institutes of Health and every other major study program in the world, and found to be ineffective in terms of removing heavy metals from the body. Medically, we can do it in the hospital, and we give IV chelation therapy for heavy metals, and it's a very dangerous process and only used in the worst of circumstances because people die as part of that treatment. It's a very difficult and touchy treatment that we don't use much, and it's not something that we're very successful at because it's a difficult process. Suppose we had a method of removing heavy metals from the body that didn't require us to do all of that. Suppose we could remove the cadmium and the arsenic and the mercury and the lead all from the body slowly in a safe manner and on an everyday basis. Actually, Qivana has done that through the scientific investigation of Dr. Isaac Elias and the use of modified citrus pectin that some of you may have heard about in the past in its amazing health benefits, which includes one of the scientific wonders of being able to bind to heavy metals inside the human body, something we've never been able to accomplish. And it did this by modifying the pectin molecule that, by the way, comes from the citrus fruit. We modify that molecule to get just to the right side so it can pass through the wall of the intestine. And when it passes through the wall of the intestine, its natural ability to bind to heavy metals is then utilized. It binds to heavy metals. It forms a complex. That complex floats through the bloodstream to the kidneys. The kidneys recognize that complex, remove it from the body, and it's scientifically first-grade stuff to measure this process happening on an everyday basis. It's not real complicated science to be able to imagine that. Well, that takes care of the heavy metals slowly that are already accumulated in your body. Well, what about the heavy metals that you're now getting in through your diet? In conjunction with modified citrus pectin, we have the alginates from kelp that we've all used in the past in making dental amalgams. We know that they bind to heavy metals. We've seen it in the scientific journals for years. So the combination of alginates from kelp, by the way, which aren't absorbed in the human body. Isn't that interesting? The molecule's too big, won't pass through the wall of the intestine, but it'll bind to heavy metals inside the gut and pass through the intestine very slowly, the dietary heavy metals that you're exposing yourself to on a daily basis. Isn't that remarkable? You have a dual system. You have detox system, core detox system, that'll remove heavy metals inside the bloodstream. It'll remove toxins. It'll remove radioactive strontium. It'll remove free radicals from the body. This is all scientifically proven data and help your body to be rid of these toxins forever. Start today. Be prepared to begin to treat your body and to work in conjunction with nature to accomplish these goals in the future. We also have a final product that I'm going to talk to before we get into the weight management system that is called the Core Defense System. And let me just tell you that also through years of scientific research, we have found that immunization process, and I know you know how complex the immunization process is. You've seen all that they have to do to be able to give you one shot in the arm to stimulate your immune system to make antibodies, right? That's complex. And how many immunizations do we have to protect you against all the disease in the world? What, maybe a dozen? You got one for meningitis, you got one for pneumonia, you got one for tetanus, you got one for this and you got one for that, but you don't have many. You have about 12. How many disease-causing germs do you think that you may have to contend with in the course of a year? Do you think it would be 1 million? Perhaps 1 million or more, right? So there's hundreds of thousands of germs that we're exposed to. We don't have a method of protecting ourselves against those germs that is realistic. All we really need to do is boost our immune system in some realistic and reasonable way so that the body is more prepared to fight off infections on a daily basis. Now, we have a method of doing that. What we have found that if you grow a certain type, a group of mushrooms, 6 of them, Ganoderma lucidum is one, Reishi is another, and there's 4 others that combined, the outer walls and coverings of these mushrooms will combine together to form a similar covering that we see in viruses and bacteria on a daily basis that our bodies are exposed to. So when you get that immunization, that shot in your shoulder, you're actually getting live germs that have been broken apart and killed through a process, and you're getting their outer covering of their cell walls, and that's what stimulates your immunity to form the antibodies and have a memory that will fight off infections in the future. What if you could do that in a different sort of way? Maybe we could expose your body to the cell walls of these 6 different type mushrooms that we have proven that there's similarities between the polysaccharides, the glucose, and the walls of these mushrooms, and we could give them to you orally to stimulate those 80% of the immune cells in the human body that we've already talked about. They're in the lining of the gut, and so you stimulate those immune cells. You raise the DEFCON level of the body up so that the white blood cells are primed and ready for action. And you actually can see under a microscope in laboratory animals the white blood cells increasing in the wall of the intestine. They will have these little granules inside the white blood cells that we call toxic granulations. And these little granules will fill full of toxic chemicals that will kill other bacteria and will start the immunization process. It raises your body up, and there's been studies done showing in, for example, patients that have emphysema and chronic lung disease, that recurrent infections are significantly decreased by just stimulating the body's immune system in a generalized manner using these 6 mushroom products that have been properly prepared. They are medicinal mushrooms. Now, those of you from the past may have had some experience in the 60s of a different kind of mushroom. As a matter of fact, I was a policeman in Jacksonville for 7 years, and I had some experience with some folks that had some wild experiences with mushrooms that were not of the medicinal quality, I promise you. So in those days, we had a different approach to it. Nowadays, we have scientific validation of the process, and these mushrooms are grown on a bed of natural brown rice and adaptogenic herbs to feed them with the proper nutrients that are going to be clean and protective and help your body, help it improve its defense system. Now, finally, and let me close tonight by telling you about our metabolic system, one of the most fantastic systems that I could ever talk to you about. I talked to you about these 68 patients, but I didn't talk to you about me because I have lost 17 pounds now in about 4 weeks. I'm wearing a coat that I could not have worn at any other time. I've been on my feet since about 5 o'clock this morning, so I started off with these clothes this morning, and I'm finishing up tonight with you folks, and we'll keep you out there, and I'll stand up here so you don't have to experience that wonderful process. What I would like to expose to tonight is an introduction to one of the most fantastic weight management systems I've ever seen. Now, I've been a physician for 34 years. I have tried everything. I've tried OptiFast and SlimFast and MetaFast. I've tried South Beach. I've tried Atkins. I've tried everything. And I'd bet you that I couldn't count 5 patients that I know that have changed their lifestyle and kept their weight off over the period of 34 years as a doctor, and I've tried hard to do that. It doesn't happen very much. But I am seeing something now that I've never seen in my life as a physician, and I've seen simple people from, I've got a 12-year-old, and I've got people that are old as 85 years of age that are on this program that are doing absolutely fantastic. I want to start you off with that success story so that you'll know that we're dealing with real people that have real successes on a day-by-day basis and who have changed their lifestyle. Diabetics that have stopped their insulin, cholesterol patients that have had to stop their cholesterol medicines because they have nothing to treat. I've got patients that have got arthritis and obstructive sleep apnea that have every manner of disease that you can imagine that are all related to obesity. How about depression? Did you realize that obesity is probably the major cause of